Matt, thank you for the privilege of speaking to you and getting some feedback about the 911 emergency coaching. Just as a brief, okay, the purpose is for senior executives and CEOs, and in 1 hour, the four of us are coaching executives to basically solve burning issues quickly and provide different perspective almost immediately, which we think is very important in the time of uncertainty where we are going. And so knowing that you have experienced this process, what was your experience like?
Well, it was extremely refreshing, and I'll share with you why. You mentioned uncertainty, and I was certainly at that type of moment in my life. There was a lot of organizational change happening in my work. I had just become a brand new father, and so I had all of that joy and sleep deprivation. And at the same time, we were just sort of entering a lockdown, and the world was trying to figure out what this really meant. And so I think those three elements coming together created a difficult period for me, and I was struggling to sort of find my balance within that sort of dynamicism. And I think having the chance to reflect on what's truly important to me and what my goals were, with a series of different perspectives and leaders in the space to help me understand and really develop a focus in terms of what's important and where I want to go forward and what I can just set to the side and stop from having such a negative impact on me was a very powerful moment.
Mm. And maybe just a slightly different lens on the question is, what do you think was the highlight for you in the experience? What stood out for you?
Yeah, that's a very good question. I think what it really stood out for me most was the diversity of thought. So in my job, we are constantly focusing on diversity of perspectives to create high-performing teams and drive innovation and create creative solutions to challenging problems. And I had the pleasure of working with Elaine several times before we had our session, and I got to know him as well and his point of view on things, which resonated with me, quite thankfully. But getting the chance to also then hear from Panos and David and yourself, Leon, I think everyone brought a different analogy or perspective or question that I could take away and try to answer. And I think that became quite powerful because I was able to examine any single situation from multiple perspectives.
Okay. So then just building on to what you've just said, if you were to draw a parallel between, let's call it traditional coaching, where you're working with one person versus working with 4 people at once, I mean, how would you compare the two?
That's a good question. So I'm very close to my family. And one of the things I always loved was having a big extended family around the kitchen table. And the type of conversation you can have there is, I think, really dynamic and interesting because there's multiple people around who can share and challenge and build in terms of what that topic might be. For me, in a weird way, it felt like a very familiar situation in that sense. And if I had to have an analogy, I would say having a one-to-one meal with someone can be very interesting and intimate. And I think there are strengths to that environment. And I think a coaching environment to that extent also has its strengths. But just like having a big family dinner with everyone around the table, sharing a particular view on a topic can also be quite powerful and unique. I think that that's probably the analogy that would come to my mind at first.
Thank you.
So, Matt, who do you think would be a good candidate, somebody that would benefit the most out of this type of service?
I think, based upon my experience, this particular approach to coaching is very well suited for people who are looking to make the next step change in their professional career, or also someone who is trying to sort out the balance between a new level of professional ambition and all of the other parts of one's life. Those big hops require a certain degree of thought to address the complexity and the different issues and the new responsibility that goes along with it. And I think that I felt very well equipped to make those next decisions in my own career after going through this session with you all to figure out, what is truly meaningful for me and what is it that I'm striving for.
Thank you very much, Matt, for your clarity and your willingness to share with us. Now, if you're looking at this video and you think you're interested about experiencing this process yourself, we have a 30 minutes chemistry session that we can offer free, just so you can experience for yourself and decide if this is something you want to do. Goodbye.